Amanda, over to you.
Oh, thanks, Sophie. Well, good evening, everybody. It's lovely to be here again. As you know, every 4 weeks we're here to have a little chat. Just before we get started on some current issues, I thought I'd quickly whiz round the screen and get a quick hello and a brief description of who we have tonight as our guests. Can I come to you first? Because I know you're a regular here, Matt.
Yeah, hi Amanda. As many people probably know, if they're regulars on the Q&A, I'm Councillor Matthew Holmes, Derby City Council.
Lovely to see you as always, Matt. Chris.
Yeah, Chris Kirchner, preferred bidder for Derby County Football Club.
Brilliant to have you here, Chris. Mark.
Mark Cotter, Chief Exec, Baird Group, men's clothing retailer.
Always lovely to see you, Mark. I know you've been a regular on here before as well. And finally, Ben.
Hi, Ben Robinson, Chairman of Albion Football Club.
Ben, lovely to have you here as always as well. So look, first question, we'll be looking to see if we get any live questions coming through. But one of the things that I'm really conscious around is, and you guys will know this, is I care passionately about people's good mental health and well-being. And sport, I think, is one of the best ways that we can, look after our mental health. Mark, quite often I'll phone you when I'm having one of my non-runs, but what are your views on mental health and sport? What it does?
I think, Amanda, what's amazing certainly in the UK, Chris probably be able to talk about the States, but in the UK, it's become acceptable for sports men and women to talk about their kind of mental health issues, and I think becoming less and less of a taboo subject. And I think particularly cricket, rugby, slightly less so in football so far. I don't know whether that's just a slightly different background and the roots to it, but certainly in cricket and rugby and lots of other sports, people talking about mental health issues, players taking time out to get their mental health in a better place. And I think, that side of it I think is amazing, because I think it normalizes something that's been buried away for a long time. And then of course the other side is just playing sport of any sort. And Chris talked about it a little bit earlier when we were all meeting. It's just a great way of getting out of your own head. You're just fully participating in whatever sport it is. It doesn't matter what it is. So it's hugely important, whether as a participant or just watching other people and acknowledging that it crosses all areas of society.
I've got a sort of question I'm just thinking about, which might be why we care so passionately about football as an example. But just sticking with mental health for a moment, Matt, what about you and sport and mental health? I know we've spoken about mental health before.
Yeah, I mean, quite recently, your visit to Poland, you met Amir Khan, former world champion, boxing world champion, and actually it was striking to hear him talk about training and exercise and how that's really, really important. I know he feels passionate about that as well, and you do too. And actually, I was listening really, really close to what he said. I'd like to know more about that, actually. So it'd be really good, actually, if you could reach out to him at some point, Amanda, and have more of a conversation, because he came across really passionate, and I think we've seen it in other boxers as well. Tyson Fury has talked about it, about how sport, training, dedication to the sport, or even just in a just going jogging or whatever exercise you want to do, it really, really is important in mental health. So it's an incredibly important area for exercise and sport.
Well, thank you. We were talking just before we came on about the importance. Chris, what about your views on mental health and sport?
Yeah, well, I think it's an interesting topic. Obviously, one that has become forefront of issues among athletes, even in the U.S. Maybe even more so in the U.S. just because there's more sports kind of floating around. And I think there's a couple different angles to look at it. One is the impact mentally on the athletes themselves or the people affiliated with the clubs, right? You're in a fishbowl, and oftentimes from a very young age, I grew up in Kentucky where college basketball is a big thing. And so these kids are going from high school into the NBA, which is a massive, massive life jump in the span of 2 years in some cases. And so you have 19-year-olds who are now fully grown adults making a lot of money with a lot of pressure. Most people aren't wired for that or able to handle that. But then I think also there's an impact, what's gone on in Derby this year, there's an impact on the fans themselves, both negatively in some cases, but also positively, right? I think coming out of COVID, returning to stadiums was massive for people and for the mental health of people and fans, just to be able to go back and see their friends and be part of that community. And so I think the depending on which angle you're looking at it, there's mental health impacts all across the board, and kind of in that entire universe of sport.
It makes you realise, actually, doesn't it, just how what part sport plays in our lives. And I think you've highlighted two separate parts there, really. The one is the participating, as in physically doing it, but then there is also actually the observation. But Ben, I mean, I've sat with you a couple of times and participated watching Burton. I'm not sure it's particularly good for my mental health, to be fair. But what about
yeah?
About your views?
Well, okay, well, I've seen obviously firsthand the power of sport, and both Burton, Albion and Derby County for a number of years have had great community charitable trusts, which have made a massive impact to the community. It's an opportunity to inspire, engage, motivate, and we have several schemes which include dealing with people's well-being, their self-esteem, and each week we have 7,000 people engaging with our projects. So I think that sport has a great opportunity to make a massive impact in communities if they choose to. And we've seen that at Burton. We've seen what Derby have delivered as well, and it's really important that we support those programs, those projects, because there's so much to offer. And you've seen recently that we provided a vaccination centre at our stadium with over 300,000 vaccinations taking place, and the NHS have taken that step further, looking now at other schemes, perhaps dealing with heart monitoring and what have you. So it's an opportunity for sports clubs to use their facilities, to use the power of sport to make a difference in their communities, and that's for us, that's what we've seen in Burton.
I know, I mean, Mark, I know I joke about my non-runs that I go on, and actually, and I'm always, they are literally non-runs. I just like to go out and then I'm going, oh, that's a nice bird over there, or that's something nice over here. However, by the end, I feel really exhilarated, even if I've just managed to just increase my heart rate a bit. I know you're a great runner, Mark. Is that the kind of impact it has on you?
Yeah, I mean, it's Amanda, the business that we're in is always challenges thrown at us every week, and every day and every year they're always different. And for me, everyone has different things. For me, I travel all over the world, and I found myself throwing a pair of trainers and my running stuff in, and I'm very fortunate. I managed to go run around most cities and exotic locations in the world. So I do it at home, and when I've done it, I always feel better. Some people it's yoga, some people it's building model railways. It doesn't really matter what it is. I think for me, I like to just be out and about. So yes, I think it's important that you kind of find something to latch onto that's just not part of the daily routine. So
yeah. And just thinking, Chris, you were talking about the fans and the importance of a football club. And I know you've watched Derby County quite a bit recently. Why do you think it means so much to the people of Derby and indeed the wider community as well?
I think Gary and I mentioned this. This is just kind of a shared view that we have on sports, clubs, franchises, whatever you call it, depending on the geography of the world. And we mentioned this with Team Derby. We view the club and the meetings, the matches as kind of almost a church. And I don't mean that to be sacrilegious, but I mean that in that it has a lot of the core tenets of a church, right? It's about gathering together to celebrate something or to share something as a community on a regular occasion. And that's really what these clubs are, or whether it's the Dallas Cowboys or Derby County or Manchester or Chelsea or whomever, it's almost a church of sorts. And that's something that becomes very deeply ingrained in each one of us. And so to have a situation, I think in the last year at Derby, especially, to have something where that might be taken away from you is quite traumatic. And that's kind of part of the approach that we've taken since we got into this and got to the point of being the preferred bidder for this. Is we need to start to bring a sense of calm and a sense of normality to the club that hasn't been there, and just get everybody kind of off that edge of the cliff of this may not be there anymore. And so I think that illustrates perfectly just how emotional this is in terms of somebody's attachment to the club they support or team they support or what have you.
And I'm going to come back to you, Chris, in a minute, and Ben, about the family atmosphere of the club, because I think that's something you both strive for. But Matt, you and I went on the march, didn't we, for Derby County? And I think there were 10,000 people there, and I've never felt quite so safe in all my life.
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I mean, you know, we all want Chris to take this deal, get the deal over the line. It's going to be a fantastic moment for the club, and I think we've touched on the issue of how it's impacted on fans and the community in the city, because we all care about Derby County immensely. We just can't imagine there not being a Derby County. So it's fantastic that this is happening, and Chris has come along and he's dedicated to getting us back on our feet. But on that, Amanda, you know, we talked about many times about the lockdowns and COVID impact and the negative impacts of that and mental health and all the things. But we also talked about some of the positives that came out of that situation. And one of the things which I've been thinking about is it's been a horrendous situation for Derby County as a club, but actually there are some positives coming out of this. I have never seen the fan base, the fans, the club, the players, the manager be so together through this situation. And coming out of this, Chris, you know, you are gonna have a club that you can be proud of. It's going to be a club that is united, moving in one direction, and is going to be behind you, you know. And I think that is a really positive thing. So from this horrendous situation that we at one point we thought was going to end really badly, we can now see a real future. You know, we've been relegated, but let's get back up there, you know. And I think there's a real positive vibe now and a real togetherness that was there, but I think it's been significantly strengthened through this whole process. I think that's a real positive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Ben, before I come to Chris on sort of plans on this family idea, when I've been you know with you in Burton, I always get that sense of family.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean, we've promoted the idea of being a family club. People say to me, Ben, I've had a great experience. You know, from the moment I arrive at the car park attendant greets me with a smile. Nothing's too much trouble. It's all about helping people. You know, and that's something that's really important. And across the whole club, that's what we've tried to create and to nurture and develop, to make people feel welcome, and to get more and more families involved. And I go back many years ago when if I walk down the high street, I'd never see anybody wearing a Burton Albion shirt. And now that's what you see regularly. Going back to our community trusts, you know, they deliver schemes in 30 primary schools. And obviously encouraging the kids to come along, who bring their parents to come along, you know, taking part in the various schemes. And that's really important, you know, because it's a family game. You know, okay, I mentioned obviously there's disappointing occasions when inappropriate chanting, you know, occurs, but it's a great game. It's a great way for young people to keep fit, to give them focus, you know, and as part of their well-being and their development.
And thank you for all you do in the community. And I was just looking at the Facebook feed, and we've also had thanks for the Derby Community Trust as well, because the work it does is unfailing in the Derby community. But thanks for all you do as well, Ben, on that. And my granddaughter is loving her football at the moment. I'm not quite sure she's a team player as yet, because she gets hold of that ball and she just runs with it with a desire to score a goal. But Chris, what about you in terms of family for Derby? It's quite important to us here.
Yeah, I think it's really important, especially, you know, when you look at things like being a supporter of a club. And this is part of, you know, I often get asked, like, why the UK game? Why not the US game? You know, the US game is growing like crazy. There's MLS franchises popping up like weeds. And so why invest in the UK game? I love the tradition of the UK game, where essentially supporting a club is passed down from one generation to the next. And if that doesn't illustrate what kind of the family involvement of supporting a club is, I don't know what does. And, you know, I grew up in Kentucky. It was kind of like, what bourbon do you drink? That was something that was passed down kind of from father to son, and is something that goes kind of through the generations. And it's very much that way in terms of what club you support. And so that's something I think for us in our mindset and plans going forward is, how do we make it something for the kids? How do we do kids days? How do we have them to training? How do we have activities in and around the stadium that are geared toward kids, that bring more kids in? Because, you know, I mean, to be transparent from a business perspective, we want them to be supporters of the club from when they're 10 or 11 years old until they grow old. That's good for us from a business perspective. So at the very kind of foundational level, it's smart business. But the more important thing is they're the ones who are going to grow the club and who are going to support it and tell their friends about it and communicate that as they go through life. You know, a lot of the Derby fans I've met, and they've come from everywhere through my LinkedIn, my Twitter, everywhere in the past couple months. It's truly a global club. And so you want people who will wear that shirt on the street, like Ben was talking about, and talk about it. And, you know, you pass somebody in the airport and you're both wearing a Derby shirt and you immediately have this bond. And so the family is not just your immediate family, but it's a broader community and a broader family that truly stretches around the world.
I completely agree with you. And I said, when we went on the march, you know, there must have been at least 10,000 people. And I genuinely felt really safe because that camaraderie of us all working towards one goal, which was save Derby County. But Mark, I mean, you have a connection to Derby County as well, I believe, in your family.
Oh, well, as I think I mentioned briefly, my son has been a season ticket holder since he was 3 months old. So because his grandfather and his mother and who's now my ex-wife, just to clarify, so I'm not slightly disconnected from it these days. But my son was very keen when I told him I was on this call to make sure that Chris knows that I have a son that's been a season ticket holder since he's 3 months old. So Ed, I've done a shout out for you. So
Hi Ed.
you can now connect with Chris directly, knowing that he knows who the hell you are. So I've spent a lot of time over the years at Pride Park, and before that the baseball ground, so I know it very well. And I am delighted that Chris is the preferred bidder, and it has a future, because I think it would have been an absolute travesty if a club with the tradition and history of Derby County just was allowed to fall away. That just wouldn't.
Yeah, well, I think to Matthew's point earlier, and to build on what you're saying, Mark, you know, the crisis is a galvanizing factor. You know, I know, you know, not to get overly political, I'm not really that kind of person. My views are my views, and I don't try to impose that or suggest that on anybody else. But I know when September 11th happened in the US, it was a galvanizing thing for the entire country, irrespective of where you were from, what your beliefs were, what your religion was, anything. That type of crisis, you know, brought everybody together. And I think that's something that, you know, when you see even with Team Derby, you had people who were on completely opposite sides of the political spectrum sitting right next to each other, discussing with me the same exact, you know, goal, which is how do we save this club? And so I think, you know, like Matthew said earlier, the fan base is, I think, in a very unique place right now in terms of being more united than ever before. And that's, yeah, exciting to me to be able to try to, you know, start this over and rebuild kind of the next chapter in a new history of the club going forward after this.
We're all so excited. Ben, just final thoughts on that. You've obviously gone through, I don't like to mention it, a change of league, let's say. How do you pick up the pieces when that happens?
Well, I think the thing is, if you look at the football club and what's important, it's important to me, the two most important people at a football club have always been the football manager and the person that's driving the commercial revenue streams of the club, so the commercial manager, the football manager. Looking at our near neighbours and good friends, Derby County, and Wayne Rooney's done remarkably well. He's produced some fantastic results, hasn't he? You know, so. And I think the thing is that the great envy for Burton Albion looking at Derby is the fan base. It's incredible fan base and support. So I'm sure that in League One, Derby are going to get phenomenal support. You know, we played Sunderland. We played Sunderland away. I've got to mention this, Chris, and we were winning 1-0 with 3 minutes to go. We drew 1-1, but it was in front of a crowd of 30,000. You know, and I'm sure Derby, even in League One, are going to get a great support because it's always been a football city, and Derby's got a great history going back a long, long time. You know, won the FA Cup, and the thing is that it's an opportunity to rebuild. You know, but I think you're rebuilding from with great optimism and a great base. You know, and I think that's really important because quite often when clubs get relegated, there's lots of doom and gloom surrounding it, you know. But I think in Derby, it's all positive. The whole spin and outlook is positive.
Thank you. Chris, any final thoughts before I move on? Though I do have some questions. People say, when can they get their season tickets, please?
Yeah, no. So I guess first on Ben's point on the fan base, that's ultimately what brought us back. There's no secret that we've looked at a bunch of clubs. In fact, far more than people know, because we were doing a lot of this behind the scenes and under the radar. Despite my Twitter use around Derby, that's a unique circumstance. But every other club that we looked at, we kept coming back to the fan base, and the supporters groups and the people around the club, the people within the club. I agree with what Wayne's done. Has been nothing short of remarkable. It's been unbelievable, especially when you look at all the players going out and what he's done in spite of all of that, and what the boys have done. The boys on the field have been incredible too. They've fought with everything that they have, and I think there's not you can't over compliment them for what they've achieved, even in being relegated. When you have to win 7 to get back to 0, that's a little bit behind the 8 ball to start. And yet they still drug it out almost to the very, very end. But yeah, the fans and the supporters of Derby County are ultimately the heart and soul. And we know that by running the club responsibly, we can take this forward using that as the base and the platform that we're going to build from. So yeah, really excited about it.
Really, I'm feeling very proud. It makes you feel a bit goosebumpy, doesn't it? And again, people of Derby, it has been incredible, the support that people have been giving. Season tickets, any views on that? Do we know when they is that a bit
yeah, this is probably, I would say this is one of the top 3 or 4 most commonly asked things. I don't have a date yet. Obviously our timetable is very simple right now, which is the club runs out of money on Saturday. It's no longer a date in the future. It's now Saturday. And there are a few hurdles that need to be achieved by then, which namely is now the stadium. And once that's done, we'll have an SPA in place that has a couple conditions in it, but the main things are just coming out of administration and some legalese and things like that, but we'll de facto own the club. And at that point, once that's signed, then we'll be able to start making decisions on players, on season ticket dates and things like that, because you can't sell the season tickets while it's still in administration. And this is my understanding. So if I'm wrong here, I'm going to go ahead and disclose that. But my understanding is they can't sell the season tickets for next year while it's in administration for this year. And so we have to get it out of administration in order to do that. We're hopeful that that date becomes maybe sometime late May, early June. But obviously, as soon as we know that, that'll be something that we communicate to everybody, because it has been a popular question. And again, it's in our best interest to sell those season tickets. So we will get it out as soon as we possibly can.
That's really helpful. What I just and thank you for your honesty on that. Can I just, there's just something that occurs to me that I'm sat here and I've got some amazing people here, all of you, Matt, who I've admired for a long time. But one of the things that that I hear every now and again is around this imposter syndrome, which is around should I really be here? And I'm sat here thinking, oh gosh, wow, I'm sat here, I'm the MP for Derby North, which I never expected to be. Do you guys ever get imposter syndrome? You're thinking, wow, can I pinch myself? I mean, Chris, I can see you nodding. Is that something that you've ever felt?
Yeah, it's actually something I've sought a lot of guidance on. I think part of the questions in the media have been around me and obviously my financials, just because people want to know that the club's going to be supported. And the last 5 years have been earth shattering for me. Really, the last 3.5 years have been earth shattering from that perspective. 5 years ago, I never would have dreamed of owning a football club. I would have hoped to be able to consistently afford season tickets. And so, imposter syndrome is real. And I learned about it in the tech business, because you often have companies that kind of accelerate growth and grow pretty rapidly. And we've been fortunate to be in that position as a company where the value of our stock has grown significantly in a very short amount of time. And so, there have been days where I wake up and, I feel like there's a million people outside of our company that could be a better CEO than I am. And now with the club, it's very much a pinch me thing to just be in this position. It's beyond a childhood dream, right? You dream pretty big and imagine things. Typically you imagine playing, not necessarily owning the club. But then you get to a point where you kind of you're beyond any of that. And so it is surreal. And yeah, sometimes you're like, am I the right person for this? And you feel kind of the walls start to close in on you, and whether or not you deserve to be there. But, for me, I always find solace in that, I just hire good people. I think with this, you look no further than Gary Cook. Like, I would not be in this position or be comfortable to be in this position without Gary. Because I don't know the first thing about running a football club. I've said that on multiple occasions, but Gary does. And I know if I give him the resources to do it, he can do a pretty darn good job. And so that's what we're going to do. But, I try to find solace in the people around me, and just, betting on the best people I possibly can, and then trying to stay out of the way.
And also, it's a great way to judge yourself, isn't it? I judge myself by the people around me, and I think, wow, I know some amazing people. And Mark, you and I, when you said we've known each other a long time, I was trying to figure out, it must be about 20 odd years, which, I was obviously quite young at the time. But Mark, you've been through a few traumatic times over certainly the last 2 or 3 years. What about you thinking imposter syndrome?
Before I answer that question, Amanda, I'm just going to, for the rest of anyone that happens to be listening, is Amanda and I have worked together on and off in different roles and capacities, but Amanda wandered into my office probably, I'm going to say it's 10 or 12 years ago, and sat down and said, Mark, just to let you know, I'm going to become an MP. And I had absolutely no doubt whatsoever that she was going to become an MP, because at any point Amanda's ever said she's going to do something, she always does it. So if you feel like an imposter, trust me, you were never going to be an imposter. You're always going to achieve it. So and I'm immensely proud when you manage to do that. So and as for the rest at work, I don't know. I think the running our business is, as Chris said, sometimes you sit there and think, what on earth am I doing? Because the rules of engagement seem to change all the time, and it's not like, I think, you've been part of the journey for us, and whether it was COVID or whether it was Brexit, there's always something now. Supply chain issues for me are probably one of the single biggest barriers to running my business smoothly at the moment, just because it's just complicated, as Chris mentioned earlier. So there's always something, but I'm not sure I ever feel like an imposter, but I sometimes sit there and think, when I shut my office door, I think, literally, God, they've actually let me loose in this place. And I suppose I'll try and have my best go at doing it. So, but yeah, I think it's, we're always a bit like that. I think probably, as Amanda knows, I have 2 slightly older children and 1 very small one. And occasionally when he runs in the morning, I go, now I do feel like an imposter because I'm doing all this again. Is that really? So yeah, I think that's probably quite grounding.
Yes, I think you're very brave.
I've told Rachel that he needs to play right on the other side of the house, so that he doesn't come running in here waving a train or truck or a tractor or something. So.
Yeah. Oh, we talk about tractors. My granddaughter's been on tractor today. She just loves pet the tractor. It's just like, climbing on tractors and everything.
But actually, just picking up, Amanda, on Chris's point, I think I think if you employ really good people around you, and I always like to think I've got people that are much better than me around me. As you know, I like to employ smart, clever people, and sometimes they're a challenge to keep them all pointing in the same direction. But I think that always makes life a more interesting, more exciting, and actually just know that they're going to give it their best shot. So definitely the tactic to take for me.
Ben, what about yourself?
Yeah, well, obviously, what an amazing journey of experience, with Burton Albion. Starting on a Tuesday night on the south coast away to Margate. Remember, it was extremely cold. It was raining, windy. And looking back and over the years, through great managers, some great players, experiencing some great eyes, entertaining Liverpool, Manchester United when we were a non-league team. We held them to a draw despite Alex Ferguson bringing Rooney and Ronaldo on with 35 minutes to go. And hopefully we managed to get through to play Manchester City not so long ago in a 2-legged Carabao League Cup, So, but for me, obviously, coming from working class background, humble beginnings, I've managed to be grounded, all over my years, and that's, I think, part of why. Big part of me. My mum brought me up. My mum was 14 when she went to work in the brewery maltings, wearing clogs because there's water swirling around. And then she married my stepfather when I was 7. Incidentally, Chris, my father was a Black American GI, and I was conceived during the Second World War. So Yeah, and the thing is, I had a great experience. Met some lovely people. Had the pleasure of meeting Pele twice over the years, and so yeah, claim to fame. So yeah, so I think, and obviously, but the thing to me is that it's what football can do, what our club can do and has done by engaging with the community, supporting the community. You know, it's a massive tool that's at one's disposal. You know, and so I've said that for me, it's important, obviously, to win football matches, because the more successful you are, it's easier to persuade companies to support you financially, you know, with sponsorship and whatever. But at the same time, it's also important what you do off the field, how you support your community. So for me, I'm very lucky. I've had a great journey, met some great people, and through the managers that have worked with me and the players, you know, we've had some amazing times.
Matt, have you got any further thoughts on that?
Well, you have to take the victories and the defeats along the way, don't you? Both in sport and in politics. But for me, I mean, we've had conversations, Amanda, haven't we, about these things, and we have a little chuckle about it. But my view is that, I mean, I've held senior political positions, local political positions over the years. And for me, I always have the attitude that the more responsibility you're given, the more humble you must be. And you must remain a nice person. Okay, sometimes you have to make very difficult decisions. I'm sure Chris makes them every day of his life, and I'm sure within football he's going to be making more. And Ben will know this, and Mark will know this as well. But as long as you have humility, you treat people with respect, and you have self-respect, I think you can't go far wrong, really. And you know, that's the main thing for me. I have seen people around me and in the past that it's gone to the head and it's all gone wrong for them, and it's their own fault. But I think you can control that, and I think if you are a nice person, you treat people in a way that you'd expect to be treated yourself in business and in life in general. I think you can't go far wrong.
I think, you know, you just making me think back, and I've said this before, you know, when I was 17, going through a really difficult time at home with my mum, as you know, and I had to leave for a while. And really, if you can just believe in yourself, that is just so important. And I know that's a message that we constantly try and put forward. But I'm just going to move on, because I cannot believe we haven't got an awful lot of time left. Can we just come on to the Queen's Jubilee? Because, you know, I'm fingers crossed. I don't know, Chris, whether you're as excited, but Ben, what are you doing for the Queen's Jubilee? Have you got some plans in Burton?
Yeah, there's a number of events taking place, and also at the showground, early June, there's an event to recognise the work of all the volunteers that have supported their communities during the COVID crisis.
And Matt, perhaps you could fill us in on what the city's doing.
There's going to be lots of celebrations around the city. I think there's, I mean, I know in the community Mickleover that I represent, we've got, 3 or 4 days of events at Mickleover Football Club on the Thursday night for a beacon lighting and some entertainment. We're working on a 3-day event as well, and then the community sort of fete as well, to celebrate, the Queen's Jubilee. So, and that's going to be replicated across the city. It's going to be a huge celebration for everybody. And I hope that Chris is going to be, once he's in as Derby owner, that he'll be an honorary sort of Brit, and he can learn the national anthem, and we'll be all singing it together and be waving the flag. I think I just look forward to that. If you could come over, Chris, you'd be absolutely amazed. You'd love it if you come over for the Jubilee. It'll be a fantastic celebration for the Queen. But I don't know what your arrangements are. You might be here, you might not be.
It depends on scheduling a little bit, but I talked about possibly coming over for Royal Ascot and for the celebration around that, just because that's something growing up in horse country that I haven't done yet. That would be a lot of fun, and this would be a fantastic year to do it.
Well, I've got some stories about Royal Ascot, but I'll keep those for another time when we meet. But I've got a few people coming up on Facebook saying they want to talk more about Derby County. But there are other things that I want to get to know all of you guys. So apologies to anybody who's watching. I do realise that there are lots of questions around Derby County. but maybe we'll come back at the end. Mark, any views on the Jubilee? Anything that you just like to add on?
I'm wearing two hats. Firstly, I think I'm not particularly a royalist or not. But I don't think I've ever heard anyone say anything negative about the Queen. I think, kind of pretty much without exception, she is universally admired, and I do as well. I think she's remarkable, and I think she's this kind of like linchpin in the middle of that institution. I think, and I'm sure the celebrations will be fully embraced by everybody, and certainly, locally here, there's lots of things going on, so as I'm sure there are in Derby. And then just wearing my commercial hat is 2 extra bank holidays, so it usually gets loads of people out into my shops and spend loads of money. So just being purely selfish about it, it might be a good commercial enterprise, or everyone might just stay at home. I don't know, but anyway, I think the Queen fully deserves everybody's admiration and the celebrations, because she is a remarkable individual.
We were just talking, Mark, and I'm just thinking about celebrations, but we obviously it's a men's suit company, and I know you don't manufacture in this country anymore, but we did used to do the was it the England team, if I remember correctly?
We've done the England team. We've done most of the Premiership teams. Actually, never done Derby, but I can always open to offers there, Chris. When you're looking for someone to help you with your formal wear for your team, and I'm quite happy. We've made quite a few suits for Wayne Rooney over the years when he was at Man United. So
that sounds like an offer. But don't forget, you've got Ben Robinson here as well, Mark. I'm sorry.
I know. Well, we'll talk to Ben later.
Or about the FA Cup final, because Derby are clearly going to be in the FA Cup final next year.
Well,
So,
as you know, my business, we have what were suit factories in the north of England. One of them was in Hartlepool. So we now sponsor Hartlepool United. So we sponsor the stadium, and actually we've had it's now a warehouse, it's a distribution centre, but it was a factory from 1946. So strong association with that particular town. So one of our businesses sponsors them and gets very involved in all the local community activities. And yesterday was, I think, last game of the season, and Hartlepool fans have got a tradition of dressing up. So yesterday's theme was doctors and nurses. So you'll look on social media, you'll see vast arrays of the crowd dressed as doctors and nurses, which I think is fantastic. So we've talked about community, and it is a part of sense of community and the spirit that goes with it. So.
No, thank you, Mark. And I think we've got an offer there, guys, for some suits. I've just had somebody come on Facebook Live saying that the Queen is secretly a Derby fan, which I didn't know. I don't know how true that is.
Of course. Who is not a Derby fan? That's the question.
Do you have any inside information, Matt? Is the Queen a Derby fan?
I do not know the Queen, Amanda.
Well, look, it says over here, I'm just reading out what it says. It said, over 20 years ago this month, when the Queen visited Derby to perform the official opening of Derby County's Pride Stadium. Pride Park Stadium. Not this month, but over 20 years ago, she opened the stadium, apparently. So there we go.
Well, George Clooney is, so the Queen is as well. We've got all these superstar monarchs. Everybody is. President Biden is a Rams fan, clearly.
Well, maybe we can find out about that. I don't know. We can't seem to escape the football theme, and normally I say we have a bit of a broader thought on this. But what about the World Cup? Is there a likelihood, Chris? Do you think that we are going to England versus the States at some point? Is that likely to happen?
Yeah, they're in the same group,
Yeah.
so it's 100% likely to happen. I've actually already had a lot of text messages and WhatsApp messages for some wagers on that one. So I have a feeling I'll have to make it over for that match.
Do you know when I was talking about taking the highs and the lows, Chris? Well, that might be a low. I'm sorry, but
no, I think the US is 4 years away, to be completely honest. I'm not a football pundit or expert, but we're young and exciting right now, and I think you see some of the players, Anthony Robinson at Fulham, and obviously Christian Pulisic and some of the other guys that are now starting to play. We have the first ever US player in the 11 at Barcelona. There are a lot of exciting things on the young side, but a tournament like that, you have to have some sort of veteran leadership, and the US just doesn't have that. And quite frankly, our back four needs some work. They give up goals at a pretty alarming rate. And if we do that with Harry Kane and the boys, we might give up 5.
I'll put that joking aside. First and second in the group, solved.
Yeah.
Then we can meet. We can meet in the final, no problem.
Yeah, that would be fun.
That would be fun. I wonder if we could get some tickets. I don't know if anybody's got any tickets out there, but we would we'd be quite pleased. I guess I'm just thinking about why do you think football hasn't been as popular as in football to us, soccer to you?
Yeah.
Because wherever we go in the world, because it's such an easy game to play, pretty much all you need is a ball in the street and off you go. What do you think's happened in the US that means that different sports came up as national?
Well, I think a couple things. I think we got a late start on it. Even if you look so my father grew up in South America and didn't live in the US until he was a teenager, and so he played in Peru and El Salvador and the countries that he lived in Latin America. That's why as soon as I could walk, I had a ball, and so our family was a little bit unique in that respect. But now that's radically changed. That was 30 years ago. Now in today's world, some of the other sports that kids would traditionally play, basketball's still big. People play basketball. It's in every community. There's hoops everywhere. People play. Baseball, I think, has gone down a little bit. Football's definitely going down, especially around head injuries. That's a big kind of taboo topic right now, or concussion issues and the long-term implications of that. And so you see parents, I have a 2.5-year-old. I would rather see him play other sports than football, to be completely American football. I'd rather see him play British football or soccer here in the US. And I think a lot of other parents are looking that way. And now when you look at the growth of MLS, I think after a couple failed attempts, they've finally gotten professional soccer in this country in a proper place. And they've built the business correctly, which will then support the clubs and support the youth academies that are affiliated with those clubs. And so I think now you're really starting to see the game built properly, not just at the professional level, but on down to the youth level. And so you'll see it grow. I know the US was in the bidding for the 2022 World Cup, and I've told some people, I wish we would have gotten it because it would have been a great time just with the growth of the game here. When you inject that event, it takes another step. The 94 World Cup was massive for youth soccer in the US and really, really started that kind of journey to where we are today. And I think the next World Cup, which will be in the US, will be, another additional step on top of that. So I think we're getting there, but because we have so many different sports, you get athletes, the prime athletes still play other things because frankly, they get paid more money. They even get paid more money in baseball, but you look at basketball and the salaries in the NBA, it's 10 times what you're going to make as the best player of an MLS team in the US.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a whole topic on its own. I'm just thinking, did you play football, Ben? Have you played a sport, or have you been a spectator?
Yeah, I played not professional football. I played for clubs in village clubs, and my one claim to fame is the scout for Burton Albion came to watch me on 2 occasions, and then he told me he's going to come and sign me for the Burton Albion Colts. But then he was working at the time for the manager of Burton Albion, then was Peter Taylor. Then Peter Taylor joined forces with Brian Clough, great Brian Clough, on his first managerial job at Hartlepool, and he went with him. So we never came back. But obviously, if I'd been any good, then somebody else would have come along. Obviously, they didn't. So, yeah, so no, it's great. I remember on a Friday evening, every Friday evening, you had to buy the Burton Mail to find out if you were being selected the next day, because all the teams appeared for all the divisions were in the paper. So you found the paper, and I think then there was just one substitute, I think, going back. So you bought the paper to see if you were playing on the next day on the Saturday, But it was really thriving that in those days on a Saturday and a Sunday. There was 4 or 5 divisions on a Saturday and probably 3 or 4 divisions on a Sunday. So and that was the highlight of my week. I get them from school, deliver the newspapers and the village butcher boy, and then go and play football. So it was tremendous.
Yeah, it's one of the things we do here, Chris. I don't know whether you're doing it, but we do deliver newspapers. We used to do as kids' job. What's your favourite sport?
My favorite sport, or Mark? Mark. Yeah.
My good lord. Well, I love watching football. So and I in my head I'm amazing. Just when you actually got my football boots, I never quite matched up the same game strategy that was going on in my head. But love playing it, love watching it, like watching my kids play it. So it's yeah, it's great. I like all sports. I think it's it's just a great way of being out and doing stuff. So
yeah.
And if I had I think I would have been I would like to have been a lead singer in a rock band or a professional football player, either of those. And unfortunately, I can't sing, and I wasn't particularly good at football, so I just ended up by doing something else.
I've been there, Mark. It's overrated.
Well, you've got a horrendous voice. But Matt, you're a good singer, aren't you? If I remember.
No, I wouldn't say that. I've had my moments, but those days I'm retired from that now. But clay pigeon shooting, I'm good at that. I've got a trophy on the shelf that you can't see over there. Yeah.
I thought you were a rock star.
A failed one, Amanda. Yeah.
Okay.
I was a little bit big in Norway, but that's about it.
That's it. Hey, being big in Norway is nothing to.
You'll take any victory you can.
My family are all golfers, you know that. I mean, I'm a tennis player, but my brother was a scratch player at golf, and interestingly, he was born with a club foot, and it just again, it's sort of lessons in determination. But he is world champion, as you know, mixed martial arts, but was a scratch golfer as well. And I just think it's that focus, and that's often the difference, isn't it, between good sports people and not. It's not just about talent, but clearly talent is a part to play, but it is also about focus. And I can see you nodding, Ben. You must have seen some talented players who've just sort of gone by the wayside just because they've not had that focus.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's not just about talent, you know, it's about working hard, attitude, you know, having the right attitude, mental attitude, commitment, you know, not just whenever, but every day, you know. But that applies to every walk of life, doesn't it? It applies to every job we do. You know, we should wake up in the morning every day with a smile on the face and go there and do it, you know, and give our all, you know. And that's the thing, obviously, you know, with the youngsters, it's important that they work really hard, and that's the way they're going to achieve their goals and realize their ambitions by working hard all the time.
Yeah, hard work, absolutely. Chris, do you put that down? Is it hard work? Have you been lucky, or has it been hard work? I mean, how would you describe it?
Well, I think luck or the appearance of luck plays into just about anything, right? In business, you need market timing. You need the market to want a product that you're selling at the time that you're selling it in order to be successful. And so there's an element of luck, but had you not built the product and built the business to deliver it to market, the luck wouldn't matter. And so, you know, I think, yeah, timing and there are things that do have to come together, and you have to be fortunate in those elements, otherwise it won't work. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to hard work. And even I have friends who play professional sports and have met more kind of along the way, and they are the hardest working people I know. They were the ones that were, if they're playing basketball, they're the ones out shooting baskets every single night for 2 hours, or out on the chipping and putting green for 5 hours long when everybody else is hanging out or playing video games or doing whatever. That's what they were doing. And everyone thinks that it's just because they're the most naturally gifted people. It's not always the case. A lot of times it's the guys that were just the hardest working. I mean, the famous story in the US is, you know, Michael Jordan didn't make the high school basketball team when he was a junior. And that is the best basketball player ever to walk the planet. But he put in the hours from that point, and he grew a few inches, which was helpful. But you know, he put in the work, and that's, I think, core to success, whether it's sport, whether it's business, whatever it may be. Hard work gets rewarded at the end of the day.
I think you're absolutely right. I always remember my brother say, brilliant, superb player. And he was telling me he played a round of golf the other day, and the pro was actually in awe of his awesome swing. He said he's just so gifted, so natural. But sadly, he discovered girls at 16, and that was it. That was his career was sidetracked. And anyway, I'm sure he had equally the same amount of fun. Sophie, just before we go, Sophie, is there anything? So guys, we always do words of wisdom before we finish, and that's just some words of wisdom. Any thoughts that we should leave people? But Sophie, if I can make you appear magically, is there anything that we haven't really touched on that would be? But there's loads of other questions, but I know people are just football focused tonight.
Yes. questions we've had in are definitely football related.
Yeah. Okay. And I know we've had a lot about the stadium, but clearly we can't comment on that at the moment.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would be appropriate for us to do that, because we certainly wouldn't want to jeopardise what is happening. I think all we can say is that as soon as we do know anything, then clearly we will absolutely let people know, and fingers crossed that it's resolved. I certainly wouldn't want to comment any more on that. I don't know whether you would, Chris, or anybody else would on that.
No, I think that's kind of exactly it. Is we know what it's down to. It's not a national secret on that side in terms of what's going on. I'm not directly involved in it, so I don't have any sort of update from our end. It's just that it's ongoing, and hopefully it results the way that we need it to, and it doesn't get in the way of us completing the deal.
Thank you very much. We're now going to go to words of wisdom, but before we do, I'm hopeless at jokes. Well, you'll know this, Matt. You'll know this. I can never remember any jokes, but I was told a joke the other week that I have remembered.
Is it clean, Amanda?
No, it's clean. Honestly,
okay.
It's
all right. Go ahead. I've said my piece.
Let's see if maybe I'm not going to show you properly, but I was showing this, and I've never remembered a joke before. And just see, but look, you go. What is that?
No idea.
Any ideas? No. A vicious circle. I just thought it was genius.
That's quite good, actually.
Well, I thought it was quite good when I heard it, and it's so small that I can remember it. I'm going to come around my screen in order of where I have, which will be Ben, Mark, Matt, Chris, and then Sophie. Just some quick words of wisdom. Ben, words of wisdom for our viewers tonight. Anything you'd like to say?
I think, obviously, having been around a long time, 76 years of age, had a lot of experience of life, and I've always used the term sussing people. Having people around you can trust, who can help and support you, honest, integrity, with no hidden agendas. And I think that's something that I've always adhered to and will continue to do in the years ahead.
And thank
good people around that you can trust.
Yeah, thank you for all you do, and you are such a great success story. Genuinely, it's always one of the greatest places whenever I see you. Mark, any words of wisdom from you?
Oh, good Lord above! I knew you were going to ask me something tricky.
Well, you always do.
Honestly, I think I would say to anybody, just keep trying. It's the best you can do. Just keep trying.
Yeah, and I also add to that, Mark, you need to be kind to yourself as well. I think we can be very harsh on ourselves and very unforgiving. So I think be kind to others and be kind to ourselves as well is really important. Matt, what about your words of wisdom?
I'll make it football related. Just a message to everybody, myself included as a fan, is let's stay positive. We can see that Chris is going to get this over the line, take the club forward, which is absolutely fantastic. It's clearly just a few things that need to be sorted out, probably major ones, but they will be sorted out. I'm absolutely convinced of that. And let's stay positive and get behind Chris, and onwards and upwards for the Rams.
Brilliant. Thank you. Chris, any words of wisdom from you?
Yeah, the same thing that I've been telling people for a long time. We live in a really divisive world right now. And I think if people spent more time focusing on the things that bring us together, like Derby County, like football, like sport, whatever it may be, arts, crafts, I think the world would be a much happier place. And we'd all get along a little bit better if we just shifted the focus onto what we all have in common versus what we may perceive or think differently on.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Really wise words. And as you say, I think we have been at our best in Team Derby over this, political divides, personal divides, and that's how you get more things done. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was really inspiring that day to meet everybody. You had people from the arts and culture to the city council to both sides of the city council in terms of the political groups, to yourself, Amanda, to business leaders. It was amazing, the unity that was shown around the club and around caring for the people of Derby, the supporters of the club, obviously, and the club itself. And yeah, that was a pretty cool day for me, at least, to see that and to know what I was coming to be a part of and what's possible. And I think it's something that we shouldn't forget 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. It should be, everybody came together to make this happen and to make it possible. And that shouldn't be overlooked.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was fantastic to meet you and hear all your support. Sophie, if you can unmute and just any final words of wisdom.
Oh, we've had a few come in on the chat actually, so I'm just going to read a couple of emails. So some people are just saying to be kind, just keep bouncing, and support Derby County.
Well, thank you. Now, sometimes I'm going to try and do an indoor firework. Matt shouts at me, but I'm
no.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to see if I can get this to work, Matt. I don't know whether I can or not. Look, hold on.
Oh, there you go.
Look, there we go. That's
yeah, it's pretty good. And we want to see Chris lead the bounce when he's at Pride Park.
This is it. Like, I'm going bye. Look, thank you guys. It's been so good to see all of you. I've even got I've got ones that you can stick in cakes and things like that. But this is just to say, yay! Thank you so much. Lovely to see all of you. It's genuinely been a pleasure as always. Been a pleasure.
Amanda, can I just say, Chris, good luck with it. I know my son and all of his friends and all the other Derby County fans, and not being a Derby County fan, but I do wish you luck. Honestly, I think the club deserves it, and I know everyone really appreciates you putting your head above the parapet and pushing forward. So really good luck. Anything I can do, I have no idea what that might be, but any point you need any help, I'm happy to offer it to you. But seriously, good luck with it. So I think
Thank you.
It could be amazing, and I think as it's been stated, it's in that adversity, I think we'll bring together a much stronger club coming out of the side. So it'll be fantastic, and I wish you luck.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ditto, Chris, as well from me at Burton. Look forward to hopefully seeing you next
See you
season.
next year.
And, all the best. Yeah. Good luck.
Thank you so much, guys, as always.
Thanks,
See
Amanda.
you next time, Matt, as well.
Okay,
Take
bye-bye.
care. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.
Thank you all. Cheers.